she in the vehicle?
Yeah. I'm at Grace Church Road. I went to Waynesboro to bring this man down to this address. And now he's trying to force his way into a house. I'm afraid to move my vehicle. Just fighting in there.
It's inside the house now?
Yeah.
You have your doors locked?
It's open. I'm in a van.
You need to make yourself safe, okay? Even if you've got to drive away from there to get away from him and close that and lock that door. Do that for me now, please.
Okay, wait a minute.
Oh, a little bit of a lag, I think there was there. Hey, guys. Welcome. I was going to say it's Monday, isn't it?
It is Monday. Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Sorry for putting this about 15 minutes later, but my husband had just brought me some some noodles. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to enjoy these noodles while they're hot. Anyways, hey, Adam.
Hey.
It's been a minute.
I know, hasn't it?
Yeah. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure what I went to a soccer game on Saturday, and that's about it. I worked all day today.
Oh, let me see if Streamlabs is in the house. Yeah, I actually forgot. It's like July 31st today.
Oh, it's the last day of the month.
Yeah. Yep, it is. Hey guys. It is. Tomorrow's August 1st. At least this, I can't remember. Like, we have a long weekend coming up, the August long weekend. Can't even remember what it's for anymore. I remember they changed the reason why. I just know it's a holiday, like on the Monday that's going to come up this week, in a sense. So,
okay.
Yeah. But you guys don't have one, right?
No. Our next one would be like the first weekend in September for Labor Day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I think it was UK that said that they had one. I think it was Miss Dogliver or somebody in the UK said that they had one as well in August. So I don't know. Sometimes, but the weirdest one I have to say is why they celebrate Father's Day UK the same time, but Mother's Day is like in March.
Right.
That's what I find so weird about that. Like, we celebrate Mother's Day, but it's just weird, like that their Father's Day one matches, but the March one. So I remember when Steve's mom would say Happy Mother's Day to me, and I'm like, but it's not Mother's Day here. Oh, right. I guess it's Mother's Day over there. Anyways, yeah, right. We have one at the end of August. Yeah, we have one too in September, the September long weekend as well.
Close the door. I mean, Shelly says she just had the hot dog festival. So,
you know
must
what?
Be a national holiday.
Yeah. Actually, you know what I made the other day? Actually, do you guys have Orange Julius out there, you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Orange Julius?
Yeah. A lot of times they're in with Dairy Queens.
Right. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, because I don't know that they make it anymore. But yeah, I always remember Orange Julius for their pizza dogs. And it was basically hot dog, pizza sauce, and mozzarella cheese. And I just remember loving it. And I remember last time I was ever at Orange Julius, I don't believe that they made that anymore. And besides, it's a total ripoff. But anyway, yeah, so I made pizza dogs, Orange Julius, what I call my Orange Julius pizza dogs the other day.
Nice.
He has big head of bang. The August weekend here, in Canada, like I said, I think it might be just called civil holiday. Can't really remember because it was something and then they changed it. But it's one of those holidays where some jobs honor it as a holiday and other jobs don't. So it's just one of those ones that depends who you're working for, depends. Yeah. And but anyway, thank you guys. We're going to be talking about obviously the JonBenet case. Now, I personally we've never done and talked about the JonBenet case in the sense
No.
of doing a live on it. It's one we've talked about doing a live on, and I think for me it was because it's a case that I knew because obviously back in 1996, I remember and stuff when it happened and, all the different stuff. And for years, you're following it because you think that somebody's going to be arrested at some point. Everyone's totally blaming the family and stuff like that for sure. And then it just kept going on of being unsolved. And, so it was a case that's always stuck in my heart. It's actually probably the top case that's always stuck in my heart for wanting an answer for, because this beautiful little blonde girl a day after Christmas is found dead with this ransom note. And it was just so weird. And, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, everything about the case is, is so odd. And, it was the first time I really ever kind of became aware of like the child pageant world. Which I'm sure I think a lot of people probably are the same way. But I was only I was 15 in 1996, and so I wasn't like zeroed in on it. It wasn't until probably about 99 or 2000 that I really started to really look at that case. But
I was gonna say,
I remember it being on the cover of every magazine, and I remember all of the insanity around it when it happened.
Yeah, because I would have been I guess probably 27 at the time.
Right.
That the case came out, and back then I was into news and newspapers, in a sense with that, and like the OJ trial, I remember. But then I stopped reading ones. Like I stopped reading because I just got tired of the news and everything just being about death and kids and wives taking
I watched that
lives.
OJ trial every day that summer.
So did I.
The summer break. And then it preempted all the soap operas because I would watch soap operas with my grandma when I was a kid. And so then I would record them when school was going on. So, and I remember when the OJ trial was going on, not to sidetrack, but they wouldn't air the soap operas because they would, they would be showing the trial. And I used to put a tape in and record the soap operas when I was at school and then watch them at night because I was cool.
Yeah, but, I know. You know what? I too watched back then. I watched soap operas as well. And I remember I was on my vacation days. I was taking a couple of weeks off and I'm watching the OJ trial thinking that I would have enough time to watch it and then, come to a conclusion. Heck no. I hated it when I had to go to work. I was invested in watching that case.
The trial lasted forever. But
yeah. And it was such a disappointment because he did it. And like that whole glove thing was an absolute crock of crap if I ever did see anything. Like, it almost became like a stupid celebrity acting show. It was weird, like the way he was like, oh, the glove doesn't fit, it must have quit. And then look how that saying became such a signature,
If I have one note for Nick McClellan, don't try to make Richard Allen put the BG jacket on anymore.
I know, right?
Like it doesn't fit.
Okay. And Shelley, thank goodness my husband's not here. He literally cannot stand the word wiener. If I say wieners and beans, he like that word irks him. But I just naturally say it. The other day I said, literally, I was like, hey honey, do you want me to make you some wieners and beans on toast? Whatever. Da, 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 da. And he's just, he just literally, he can't stand that word. But it was a word my mom, that's what we say, wieners and beans. Like, that's our thing. So I'm just like, I'm not going to sit there and have to sit there and have a brain melt to remember not to say that word in a sense. He's just like, call them what they are. And I'm like, yeah, wieners and beans. I guess to a guy, I guess I could see where that would seem funny, especially if you're from England and you don't hear that
Right.
terminology for it.
Right.
Okay, let's
Lisa,
see.
exactly, Lisa. Little did we know at the time that we were getting introduced to the Kardashians.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much. It was that one was strange too, because I remember watching certain shows back then, and I remember when like okay, I remember when I was watching some sort of different like reality shows, and I remember like Bruce Jenner's son was on this one show, and
He
Kim
was on the Hills.
Kardashian, huh? The Hills.
He was on the
That
Hills.
Yes, yes. So I was watching The Hills, and then I just remember like when I saw Bruce Jenner, and I remember going, "Why does that guy remind me of a chick all the time?" Because his lips were so pink, but he had these feminine qualities to me, right? And this is before he actually came out, but I always thought that for some reason that definitely he just possessed these female qualities. So that's why it never shocked me when he actually came out. But anyways, yeah, then that whole spin-off stuff happening with the Kardashians and oh, I just went blurry. Hold on. Oh, why does my camera go blurry all the time? Seems like it goes blurry all the time. I think I'm better now. Anyways, but yeah, so it was just strange. And then you watch that show explode, and then they become like the billionaires of whatever, and it's kind of crazy. But hey, if it's people's fixes, I mean, I think with the Kardashians, I mean, honestly, I remember watching the show, and I
Never
mean, it's
watched
a
it.
good looking family, you know, it really is a good looking family. And I don't know, I just remember watching it, and I enjoyed watching it when I did, and then I got bored of it, kind of like anything sometimes.
I've never watched it. But
Yeah, I mean, I, I wasn't really in, I don't know. I really just totally got out of watching anything to do with reality shows
you don't
because,
watch anything on TV.
yeah, I just, for me, when reality shows first came out, I enjoyed them. And then they just became everywhere because everyone was picking up on reality shows. And then it became to the point that that's all everything was. But it was just like, I mean, even when I look at the longevity of like all these shows like Big Brother or
I watched
what's
Survivor.
that one, Survivor, and stuff like
I
that.
love
Like
Survivor. I still love Survivor. But
normally though, those type of shows would last maybe on a long note 10 seasons. Now, season number 57, and you're just like,
right.
hey Frank. But
Hey,
anyways,
Frank.
yeah. So I came here for the poll and wasn't disappointed. Riddle me this. In
What
your
is the
opinion,
poll?
hey, the poll, it just simply says who wrote the ransom note.
Well, I'm curious
And
what
nothing.
the tally is right now.
Yeah.
Or we go to that later.
Sure. So at the moment, we have 50% Ramsey, Patsy, sorry. We have 42% Intruder, 4% Gary, and well, at least people are smart on that one. And John, 4%. Um, if if there's one
That's
thing
not surprising.
that's very clear to me, thank you, Lisa. Hey, Lisa, is that a compliment? Shit, better save her that. Better
Wow.
screenshot
I'd watch
that.
out. I'd keep my eye on her from now on.
It's yeah. Hey Alexa, there's Alexa. Yeah, and Alexa's not on the live tonight. She's just been really busy, and honestly, we were gonna do John Bonet regardless. I mean, of course, we would love to have Alexa on, but when when she comes back, we'll do like a part two where Alexa can analyze the handwriting and stuff like that as well. She does believe though. That Patsy wrote that note. If there's one thing that any female especially knows or should know. And actually, maybe I should probably bring it up when it comes to that ransom note. See, I don't feel like this was rocket science to me. I think everyone has the ability that has some brain cells can literally look at different people's writing. So someone like Alexa can not only look at the writing, but she will decipher kind of like what things mean. Remember, like what an I means, or
Right.
what a K means, or what a Fallon claw means, Fallon hook, or
Right.
whatever, stuff like that. But for me, just to visually look at handwriting, I don't think it's a complex thing. I think we all can visually look at things and kind of go, yeah, I see a lot of similarities there. Now, again, this is a beautiful picture of JonBenet.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous. I don't necessarily agree with all these little pageants myself of these, but because that's an American thing, it's not a Canadian thing really. That you guys have all these pageants and these beauty queen things going on and whatever. Again, that's not something that you really see here in Canada, whatsoever. So
You honestly don't see it a ton here. I mean, it's definitely got more of a stigma about it. I think ever since John
now,
Bonet. Like I've never known
yeah.
a child pageant person.
Well, I was going to say,
But hey,
I
give me time, I'll put my niece in them. I'm kidding.
I find it hard for me personally to watch a child that's at 5 or 6 years old or four or whatever, and they look like little miniature adults with all their makeup on and their hair done. And I don't know. I don't, for me, I'm just not a fan of that myself. That's just
Right.
my own personal opinion. Because I always never know if it's the parent living vicariously through the child, and if the child really wants to do it, you know.
Right. But
But
someone still buys
I
those
don't know.
outfits, and in my opinion, I don't see any road that makes it okay to sexualize a child in that manner. I mean, the way that they put these little outfits on them that they
It's
do, it makes them look like adult women.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's not my thing anyway. I was just I don't know. Like I said, it wasn't. I had watched it only because of the. Other than that, I really didn't even know that those little kid ones existed. But I think that really a lot of it, and I could be wrong, but it feels like the parents living through the child, in a sense, and it's like like because they did it, like Patsy was ever, and of course, like if you have your parenting, you grow up and your parents kind of take you to these things. Again, you're a product of your environment. So
Right.
if Patsy kind of like puts her into the thing and then perhaps she does really enjoy it. But I didn't like the fact if you're taking this little child, making them with all this makeup on and stuff like that, and then, you know, yeah, making them look like little adults. I don't know. I just don't like it. Don't like it myself.
I mean,
Um,
I think it also has can have a negative impact on the way a kid grows up identifying themselves. Because I think if you teach a child at that age to kind of base some of your self-worth on the opinion of other people and being judged by your appearance, I think that can set a dangerous precedent for kids growing up.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It should, I mean, each to their own, but like, I guess I'll leave it at that. Each to their own. I'm just not a fan myself, you know. Yeah, we just didn't grow up in that world. We didn't grow up in prom king and queen and
Yeah.
any of these
I grew up in
pageanty
4
things and stuff. And in what?
in 4-H. It's like I think a lot of small like farming towns have it. Like you basically
Oh,
kind of pick a category and you show a farm animal or a talent or something.
yeah. Okay. I think I heard you guys say that before. I remember. I should have probably after not been live with you guys. It was a hectic weekend. My family trip got delayed. Yeah. I found out today that I'm traveling on Wednesday to bring it. But yeah, Alexa's got some stuff going on there. But just a reminder too that Rex Hewerman's court date is tomorrow as well. for the, SK for the Long Island. He has his court day. Yeah, tomorrow. Um, and oh yeah, Patsy. Hold on, we'll get into this in a sec. Patsy was a stage 4 cancer survivor. It's not surprising she would live vicariously through JonBenet a bit, but I don't think she would have harmed a hair on her head. You know, as for who actually, okay, as for who actually took out JonBenet, like who actually killed her. Okay, so let's kind of go back to this, which you're looking at on screen. The only people that ever really use an A like this is a female. Simple as that. For a guy to make an A like this is so rare. It's so rare. Guys do not make their little, curly Q little A's. It's women that do that. That to me was basically one of the biggest signs that a female wrote that letter. So if anyone, because, I make those A's, and it's a very female thing to do. It's very much not a male thing to do. Women like to do these little things, and like lowercase, these types of people try to be unique. Alexa sent me this and set themselves apart from others. So the first time that I really recognized it, I remember somebody used these A's like this, and I remember liking them. And I remember sometimes when I'm taking my time a bit, I'll make those A's, as part of my writing, just because I remember thinking, oh, they're kind of cute that way. I kind of like the A's that way. And even if you're typing in chat right now, or when was I typing? Because when I was typing in Messenger, if you're typing in Messenger, the A's will look exactly like this, like the ones that you're seeing on the screen. But you don't see it the same way in the chat that's in YouTube right now in StreamYard.
I've never made an A in my life like this.
No, it's a very feminine thing to do. Like I said, the percentage of a male making A's like that is like so nominal. Even if you Google it, I asked my husband, I asked my twin sister who sees writing all the time as well. And I was like, do you ever know a guy that makes their A's like this? Like, honestly, kind of went to Google too as well, but it's just not. It's a very feminine feature to do. Simple as that. And so that to me right there instantly starts me off at 95% that a female wrote this, because for a guy to write an A like that is just, it's very, very rare, to be honest with you. So that makes me believe, personally, when I look at the letters and I was looking at them myself, that I always thought myself that Patsy wrote the letter. It like, because back in the day when you heard the story, it came off of her freaking own pad. Like, seriously. Can you just imagine someone sitting there like a freaking intruder, sitting there for a freaking 20 minutes, half an hour, writing this freaking 2.5-page freaking note off Patsy Ramsey's pad that's leaving a ransom note? Like, how ridiculous is that to even think? Like, meaning, what are the chances?
Right.
That literally someone that's not only leaving a ransom note, and then they still take the daughter out anyway. Come on. Come on. So what's your thoughts on that?
Wouldn't you think, I agree 100% with you on the A's. And, I just think, typically, in ransom situations, the ransom note is written before they get to the place they abduct someone from, to take that much time. And especially the length of the ransom note is odd as well. I think to take that much time while you're in the home of the person you're abducting, it's a huge unnecessary risk that I don't see the reasoning for it, especially if you then were just going to unalive the girl anyway. So, this case is one of those cases where I've got so many conflicting feelings. Like, my gut tells me something, and then my head will tell me something else, but regardless, even now, almost 30 years later, I still can't make heads or tails of some of it.
Right. It's kind of like Delphi, in a sense. It's a mind meld, this one, because I personally believe that Patsy Ramsey wrote this letter. And I haven't honestly gone back to this case, like to actually look at the letters and stuff. But as soon as I look at it, I instantly can still see that no matter what, that to me, this is still clearly a female, one, for the way that the A's are done. And two, just looking at the lettering and everything again, and we'll go through it. I only highlighted a few of them, but there's so many things there that do it. Now, she was asked to write 5 or 6 times, she said, and I believe it might have been 5, but she was asked to give samples throughout the time, 5 to 6 times. And then when the DNA, I believe, came back, that I don't even know. I'm very confused still with the DNA. It was kind of like a touch, like a cross match, whatever. And then
Right.
I was watching Ken Maines because I was watching him from a couple years ago doing this story, and he figured that it was that for them to exonerate Patsy and John, that was so wrong to do that because it wasn't like they really had like an actual, I don't know what you want to call it, like it was like a cross contamination, and it was almost like because it didn't come back to any of them in a sense, that they
And
just deemed it as
I've heard that theory, and then I've heard it debunked. I've heard it, and that's the, we were talking last night when we decided to do this, and I was like, every time if you find an expert that'll give an opinion on something. In this case, you can find another expert that will give the opposite opinion in it, and so it can be very frustrating. Like Lisa said here about the parent, what parent could use a Garrett and bash the skull, and that's the thing is I don't see culpability. I don't see guilt in John and Patsy, but at the same time, everything that I look at with this, would tell me that most likely Patsy wrote this ransom note. I mean, I do have some doubts, but I do feel like it's a female. I mean, the A's were the first thing that I ever noticed with the ransom note. The second thing, which yesterday was the first time I looked at this ransom note in years. But I remember the second thing I remember making me think it was a woman was the use of the term attaché. It's not a word men use very often.
And not only that, but to me, my opinion, people up in the upper class would use a word like attaché. That's not a word that your typical average, person uses, attaché. That would, to me, kind of be up in those upper scale people that, not always, but honestly, the attaché word is not a word that people usually walk around saying in the upper class, or the people that believe that they're in the upper class. Right. I can see them using that word, attaché, but it's just not a word that you walk around typically saying, attaché, unless you're kind of making fun of it. Like, I mean, I don't know if it was used more widely back then, but
no,
still, it's not typically a word that the blue collar, use.
And Diana, I've never suspected that the parents did it, which is why I get conflicted when I look at the fact that I think that Patsy may have written this note. And one of the reasons that I've always thought Patsy may have done it, other than the handwriting itself, which I do think shows deception. I think whoever did this tried to disguise their writing. But when she wrote, can't remember what word it is in here. Oh, it might have been an attaché. She even used the, I can't remember what it's called, the little dash above the E. Yeah. Which is, which is proper in French, but it's the same dash they use with JonBenet. And to me, I'm like, I would think, if you're writing a ransom note and you're in a hurry, you're really going to take the time to accentuate the punctuation and, whatever it's called.
Well, see, like Diana, I think said Aspen, the parents didn't do it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not so willing to say that whatsoever. I'm still up in the air because to me, if Patsy Ramsey wrote this, and to me, there's such alarming things to say that she did, and all these people deemed Patsy as writing this ransom note. Like I remember, so I was listening for this through this 6 hour freaking video today of all the different interviews, and
Oh
as they're
wow.
talking, and yeah, and well, I woke up many times throughout it because I kept falling asleep, waking up, and da 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 da. And like I remember that at one point I woke up and there was like this list that they were giving of all these people that said that this was. I mean, even Alexa feels like Patsy Ramsey wrote this letter. So then, if she wrote the letter, what could be the purpose then? Because it wouldn't make sense. First of all, it
Well,
doesn't make sense, you know, about the ransom note coming off of her pad of paper. I mean, like, okay, let's take a look at one thing instantly. And that's the word for me. Well, first of all, listen. Okay. That to me, if I kind of looked at them right away, I'd be like, yeah, those are pretty darn similar. But when you go to the word carefully, you see how the U is pulled back from the other L's? You know, like there's that little gapping there between the FULLY, and you see the same thing happening in the ransom note. Now, again, if first of all, if you're told that you're going to be writing a ransom note, of course, like look how sweet and innocent the one to the left looks. You know, that's somebody taking their time that wrote that. Okay. We all know that we have different writings when we're doing something fast. That ransom note would have been written pretty fast in a sense, you know,
right.
and that's when your handwriting truly gets shows, you know,
Right.
because again, so if someone's seen when I take my time printing and stuff like that versus or writing, they would see a clear difference because there's the I don't give a shit writing, and then there's let me take my time writing or printing.
Right.
Hey guys.
Um, you know, Shelly, yes, the one on the right hand side of the screen is the ransom note, and the one on the left hand side of the screen is the one that Patsy wrote um, to show her handwriting, which a lot of people say she
Yes, they're
purposefully
both.
changed after JonBenet's homicide, that her handwriting was different. Um, like I said, I think that the note does show deception, but the
Right.
difficult thing with that is a note this long, it's hard to maintain a deceptive handwriting style for that long, because
Mhm.
you naturally start to go back into a rhythm of your own. When I read
Right.
the ransom note, I feel like a female wrote it, but I do feel like a male and a female dictated what was written, because there are parts of it I feel like are there are some masculine touches to it. So I feel like whoever was writing it was also then being told what to write for some parts of it.
You know,
Because if you notice, like
um,
even like in the beginning, they say Mr. Ramsey
yeah,
consistently, and then when they get to a certain part in the note,
sex.
they switch to just saying John, and then they say
Hmm.
John repeatedly. I think
Right.
3 times in the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Whereas in the
Yeah.
beginning of they say Mr. Ramsey.
Yeah. Like it's like grow a brain, John. Like
Right.
it's
Which that
it's
to me
almost
that to me is another thing I would think a woman would say.
right. Like
Like
let me
I think it's something a woman wouldn't just kind of instinctively naturally say. Grow a brain, John.
right. That to me too. That's something. And like I said, ain't no guy gonna be writing this long of a letter, okay? A ransom note. So
Right.
this is what's strange. Is that here? Where is this at? Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only what something out around. The only what? I can read it better on a different one. For some reason, it's whatever.
Wait.
Anyways,
Wait. Don't try to grow a brain, John. Um,
you
you are
are
not the
the
only.
only fat cat. Oh,
Oh,
fat
fat cat around.
cat
Yeah.
around. So don't think that the whatever will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It's up to you now, John. That struck me as so odd that this letter is going on. And then all of a sudden, in the last part of it, it's just John, 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 John. And that's where really that whole female thing, even again to me, comes out, you know? Like, it's just weird.
Right.
It's weird. And this came off of her notepad. Come on now.
Right.
Something's amiss.
Like One Solved Mystery says, Patsy was actually rated a 4.5 out of 5 that she did not author the ransom note. So while they could not fully eliminate her, they could by 90%. And you're right. There were experts that basically ruled her out. And then there are other experts that said, no, she absolutely shows the most probability in her style of writing to be the author. So it's very confusing. Just like the DNA, one expert will say, it eliminates the whole family. And then, another expert will say, it could have been from a factory worker who made the underwear. So it's very frustrating to try to make sense of a lot of things in this case. And like I said, I don't think that John and Patsy, I don't think that they I don't think they're responsible for her homicide. But but then if they wrote this note,
right?
Why did they do it?
Right.
So
exactly.
Was it to cover for Burke? Because Burke's DNA wasn't on her either. So
I
don't
like that's because I like to study people when they're talking as well. And Alexa's saying that she believes that she used both hands when she was writing this. I don't know myself about that, because I think for me, it looks pretty consistent it looks pretty consistent throughout, kind of like the same type of writing. Unless she's like really ambidextrous, like really, but then we have a sample of her left-handed as well,
Right.
Or I'm assuming that she's right-handed. I'm not sure actually.
Well, let me ask you a question. Okay,
sure.
So because this is one of the reasons I always go away from the family completely. I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. Say something, let's hypothetically say something happened accidentally and they covered it up. Their actions the rest of that day don't make any sense if that's the story, because they called 911 at like 6 a.m. And then if they knew she was in the basement, why write the ransom note at all? I mean, when they called the police, they had to have suspected the police were going to find her in the basement. Like, none of those actions after they called 911 make any sense to me if they had any involvement. And then not to mention that when, at one point that day, they had Bert go to a friend's house. Would you let that child out of your sight if you thought he knew something and then you're going to send him to his friend's house where he could say something?
It's strange, because remember when they showed him the picture on the table of the pineapple? He couldn't say it. He wouldn't say. They showed him the picture with the pineapple bowl and the table, and I think it had the flashlight on it as well. And the bowl is like right in front of you, and they asked him like what was on it or whatever, and it's like the bowl was right there, and he wouldn't say it. He said that there's like a cup of tea with looks like a tea bag table, and the bowl of fruit is like right in front of his face.
Right.
He's weird. He's a weird kid. I'm sorry. He strikes me as very odd.
Yeah. Dreamscape. Yeah, I know John found her, but when they called 911, they knew that at that point they were not going to have control of the situation. And, and John didn't find her till almost 1 p.m. that day.
Yeah.
And so I maintain that, their actions, if they were responsible, why go through all of that other ruse? Because, one, I don't think they would have called 911 that early if they had been responsible. There would be no need to even write the ransom note if she was in the basement the whole time and they knew it. And they had to have thought the police would have found her, even though they didn't,
Right. Because, I want to say, because this is where I have my thing. Do I believe that obviously that Patsy wrote this? I do. There's just so many things within the writing to me that show me, like, look at the Y. The Y is a very wide open Y.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many things, honestly, that I can see, whether it's the S's, whether it's the R's. And I don't remember, there was that lady that was on, I don't know, I think Tyler Feller's one, and it was like, you heard it here first, folks. That Gary Oliva or whatever is, that 100%, like, this is his writing and blah blah blah. Lady, I think you're gonna have to eat pie like I had to eat pie on the BG. I think you're gonna have to definitely eat a lot of pie on that one, because sorry, like, they didn't even connect his DNA.
Right.
And they ruled him out. That's probably why they kept, going there. But we'll watch a little bit of that in just a bit here.
Alexa
But
said the ransom note was written to push attention away from them, even though they knew she was in the basement. And that could be. But then
that's how
again,
I feel.
why would you? I don't see you. They've lost all control in the situation, and then they send Burke to someone else's house where they have no control over what he's going to say or do. That is not. That doesn't seem practical to me.
Well,
he was a 10-year-old boy, if he had any involvement in this, how would they know that he wasn't going to say something? I mean, if I was trying to protect my son at that point, I would be keeping him as close to me as possible. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, the whole thing is very strange. Like, because one of the things I keep meaning to say, that I've tried to say a couple times that I haven't failed to say, is that when I'm watching, and I'm going blurry again, when I am watching Patsy Ramsey talk, like I actually feel like she's being honest, but yet, by the same token, like, I'm looking at her eyes. I go straight to the eyes, and I'm watching this where it looks like pure grief in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But then I can't get by the whole, well, lady, this looks like you're writing, and what other idiot's going to sit there and write a ransom note once they get there, and then sit there and write this long freaking rant? Like, that just doesn't make sense in itself. Like, that whole thing doesn't make sense. Why would anyone that's abducting? So not only do they leave a ransom note, right? Obviously, she's not even alive. So that's the most absurd thing right there. They're leaving a ransom note, but yet she's already downstairs in the basement, not alive. Why is my thing still blurry? 1 second. I don't know. And there are a few new people in here, so welcome, you guys. We're definitely gonna be covering this JonBenet Ramsey case again, because it does really. I like puzzles. I like intrigue. Although I just simply want the case solved for before my lifetime is over. That would be great, and it is great. But they, like, again, I mean, DNA stuff has been around, touch DNA, and all that has been around for a long time, and yet I don't know. Like, it's one of those mind F's, right? Yeah. This case, I don't know.
Yeah, Crystal, you're right. It is a quote from Speed. Don't attempt to grow a brain, John. And then I was also looking, the other movie I forgot about. The movie Ransom with Mel Gibson had come out. I can't remember the date, but it was November of 1996. And I find it interesting that movie had just come out when that whole movie is about a kidnapping.
Yeah. Oh, and just quickly, first of all, that expression, that was way before Speed ever came out. Grow a brain. Okay, that's actually a very common. Hey.
But I think even the John part, because that was his name in the movie, I believe, right?
Yeah. Like, do you know, like, there's certain expressions that have been around for a long time, and even if it was like in the movie Speed or whatever you said it was, that's just a regular expression that I've heard most of my life growing up. Grow a brain. Like, my grandma would say that to me when I was a kid. You got a brain in there, grow a brain.
Some people still need to.
Yeah. That one strikes to me as like I said, odd, just because it's all of a sudden like they're writing this note, and all of a sudden it's like, grow a bane, use that Southern common sense of yours, John. I don't know. It really is. Because that's why I'm torn. Because what parent, but then we know being in true crime, we can't even ask ourselves what parent would do that. Because look at what these people do in true crime. Anyone that's in true crime knows that nothing is off limits to what people do, right? Even if it means saving their child. Because, like for instance, let's just hypothetically say that Burke had something to do with it. Well, they don't want to be losing two children, one that did it, say, and one that whatever. I but and Camaro was saying something about that he's heard that the person took the pad and then brought it back, and not gonna say I buy that one, to be honest with you, but
I mean, we
never
know a
say
lot of people
never,
were
right?
exactly, and they were gone for 5 hours that night. I don't know if he still feels this way, but I know at one point John even theorized that the person had been in the house since while they were out to dinner. So I mean, it would have given an intruder time to familiarize themselves with the house if they weren't already, and to write the ransom note. Because again, why would you write that ransom note after you'd already committed the homicide?
I don't. Okay, let me just see what you guys are all saying here. Many parents. Okay, so let's just start here. Is it will do shady things to protect their children? Absolutely. I just feel that being in true crime, that what a normal person would do, um, and even if it was an accident, or intentional, when it comes to what anyone will do, is anyone's guess. To be honest with you,
Right.
because like I said, when you're in true crime, everything's to me on the plate, because people do the damnedest things for the damnedest reasons. And um again, as a parent, you're like, this beautiful girl, she's 6 years old, you know like I remember it was a lot. I think, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the thing back then was because Patsy did it because of JonBenet wetting her bed and stuff like
I've
that. I
never
think that
bought
was.
that theory.
No, I didn't either. But don't you think it's strange though that the blanket that was used was pulled out of the dryer, and it had her robe, or her, like her, yeah, house coat or pajamas with it? Like static cling, where it's like you take something and it comes out. So somebody literally stopped at the dryer to grab this blanket, and that has her like pajamas attached to it. Like, again, those are things that don't make sense. Her, Patsy's notepad doesn't make sense. And to me, for me personally, I totally absolutely believe this is female writing. Regardless, it's female writing. So then I'm thinking, well, what other female? Like, now, my gut says this is Patsy Ramsey's handwriting. Just looking at those different things throughout it, no matter what, even if you're trying to be deceptive, there's still those main cues that are in that writing, kind of like the U being apart from the L's. And then the same things happens in that ransom note. But it's not just that. If you look at the two, if you look at the S's, the R's, some of our R's do the hook, and some of them do more of the rounded thing. But this guy is who people that they're going around the internet saying that, because this guy, you know, uh, apparently stayed at a house like 13 doors down from the Ramseys. But we all know that people make up crap all the time, right? Like from jail, like, yeah, I'll take credit for this one. Yeah, as if to attention seek and
Right.
whatever, but yet he was cleared. So, and
So was the family.
yeah, and it was right. And so, like, for instance, every time you look at this guy's writing, it's always like uppercase. Like there's always an uppercase to his writing. Like these are some pictures from jail, um, that he did.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, Go ahead, Adam.
No, I was just gonna say, Sisu, I agree with you. That the foreign fraction thing that always stood out to me is funny because no foreign fraction is going to call themselves a foreign fraction, especially when they go on to say we don't represent the whole country.
Honestly, that one makes me laugh every time I read it about the foreign faction. I don't know why. There's just something about how stupid that sounds that when I read it, I just can't help but go, really? Like, seriously? Um, okay, sorry. Let me get back to what people were saying. Bud and Sandy Henderson each owed John Ramsey business a remaining 18K in 1996, and after the company that bonded them paid 100K of their debt theft. Um,
They've always been interesting to me. I don't know enough about them to say.
I was going to say I don't know enough either. One solved mystery. Um, Only honestly started diving back into this case. It's been a long time, and I just kind of went back to the ransom note first and foremost.
Right.
And then now I've just been listening to a bunch of different things like interviews and stuff like that. Some six out individuals, some are our parents. Absolutely. Oh, and Adam, you were right about that whole show business thing, by the way. I was thinking that he was older. I didn't realize that he was only 24 years old.
Who?
That the one that Shabusiness.
Oh.
Yeah. Taylor Shabusiness. What a freak
Yeah.
of nature. That
Yeah.
someone like her deserves her freaking face put in a meat grinder for every freaking stupid smirk, and what a crazy witch.
Right.
I'm a
It's funny.
female.
I mean, now that my interest in the
Marrows,
case is
yeah.
now kind of I'm definitely like more interested in it again now since I started looking back into it yesterday again.
Yeah.
So I'm
did
like,
Lexi say?
well, great. Now I'm gonna have to go down all the JonBenet rabbit holes again.
I know, right? Um, I I know it's
I do think law enforcement from the Boulder police treated the pair. I do think that they had tunnel vision, and I think that they thought it was probably the Ramseys, and I think that it probably is the reason that the case has not been solved because I think that they were a little out of their league, and I think they. I think that had they brought in other organizations right away, and but I think they let their egos get the best of them, and I think they had tunnel vision. I think they decided it was John and Patsy, and it prevented a lot of other leads from getting investigated in a timely manner.
And Camaro, I'm gonna have to disagree. Z28s were the best, not the Camaro. Yeah. I love the Z28. The reason why I didn't like the Camaro so much is because I hated the back end of the Camaro, but I love the little wingtip of the Z28 and the nice lines that were around it. I always the Z28, like the Z28 hardtop, never gonna stop.
Right.
Anyways, so
right.
Yeah.
And Camaro lover, I agree. The case was messed up from the moment the police walked into the house. I think it's telling that John is the one that ended up finding her. Like 5 hours after the fact, after they called 911. I mean, why didn't police sweep that house?
Well, that's the thing.
John opened that door and knew immediately that, saw her immediately. Police never even opened that door.
Linda Arndt was there for like 6 hours by herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one that saying it but not saying his name believes that John Ramsey is absolutely the person. And then
she decided that day. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. The thing is that, and I get it, so basically she said she made a couple phone calls, and both times she was told that they were in a meeting. And so she was, because I guess at that point, right, they're thinking it's a kidnapping. They're not thinking that it's anything to do with, the homicide of JonBenet. And so again, and then when I remember she was saying like that Patsy and John weren't really even like consoling each other. Like they were in separate rooms. like most of the time, and John was in the kitchen looking at mail, and how there was definitely things that she felt were just strange
She
for
didn't think he was emotional enough.
yeah, right. And the thing is that okay, so you guys, what do you guys think about the fact that they've said that her body wasn't just one time assaulted, right? That it was that her body was showing
Oh,
multiple
previous.
times of being assaulted. What do you think of that, Adam?
I've heard forensic experts say it both ways. I've heard forensic experts say it was, and forensic experts that say that was inaccurate, just like everything else in this case. And I know that JonBenet's pediatrician 100% said that he never saw any signs of SA or abuse in any way.
Don't you hate it when you know like that the experts can't even be consistent because you got this load over here saying this and this load over here saying that. I don't know why in my head, but the whole Princess Diana thing's coming. I was there that day that I was watching that news that it happened. And then as the years go on, people just keep twisting it. They literally died because of the paparazzi. She literally died because she was trying, like their car was trying to get away from the paparazzi. It was driving too fast. But then people want to make a big conspiracy out of it after all these years. And they
Right.
just can't
And the
simply accept the fact.
driver had been drinking.
Yeah, like they just can't accept the fact that she just simply, it was a car accident. Paparazzi, they were trying to get away. And you know what happens sometimes? You're too busy focused on perhaps things that are following you. Next thing you know, you lose control, you know. But that's what all this reminds me of a bit is that, there's so many things that could have happened, should have happened, but didn't happen. I mean,
Right.
I don't believe that it's Linda Arndt's fault that she was left there all by herself.
No.
Obviously, there's some things that she would probably take back that she did. But then again, she's there by herself for like 6 hours. And,
Right.
even when um, she had called to say that it was, like 911, that because obviously of the body, it still took them a while to get there. And it was just kind of like the Delphi case. You have a lot of things there, but yet the story you still don't know. It just reminds me of Delphi that way. You got a BG, you got bridge, you got a person talking. You literally have all this stuff, and you have a small town of Delphi, and nobody can figure out who the BG is, and yet it had some of the most evidence. And then with JonBenet Ramsey's, to me, I felt like there was so much evidence in a sense, so many things that could have easily showed who the killer was or killers. And then this case is like what is it 26, 27 now years old? It's like 1996. So
27.
20,
Right.
oh shoot, yeah, 27, right? Because I said I was 27 when I heard of it, and I'm 54, so yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And, I've never judged. I never judge any the reaction anyone has when they go through trauma or grief. Like like people that say John wasn't emotional enough. To me, that's a personal thing. When something traumatic happens to me, I know I personally, you'd be hard to even notice because I'll pull it all in, and some people think that that I don't care, but it's just the way I handle things. Like sometimes, and don't forget, John had also had a daughter pass away in a car accident just 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
So JonBenet is John's second child that died in 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, true. And this is where this is a mind meld to me. Because again, who would know that John's bonus, though, too, right? And if people won't go down this line, that it was $118,000 and some odd change.
Right.
And yet the
That's weird.
ransom note is asking for $118,000.
Right.
Right. Is that a
Right.
coincidence?
And his bonus was a little less than that, but the only people
Yeah.
that would know that are people, or coworkers probably, and probably not everyone, but that is, of course, that's interesting.
There's a
And that's the
lot
thing,
that's
is everything in my gut tells me that it was an intruder, except for the ransom note, and that's where I always come back to the family.
Mm-hmm. I don't think son has about 10 Camaros, does he? I don't think this is will be formally sold. What do you think on that, Adam? Do you think that this case will ever find justice, or do you think that, like, because with the DNA that's out there, technology now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember what John said about the. I can't remember
He
anymore.
wants the DNA tested again with new technology. The problem is the sample of, I was just reading this, the sample of DNA that they have remaining is so small that
Oh,
if testing could eliminate it. And so, if DNA technology gets even better, it'll eliminate the ability to use it in the future.
mm-hmm.
But Diana, I had read that his check stub, that if someone had been in the house while they were gone, his check stubs were sitting out on his desk, and they could have easily found out that amount was his bonus. But again, it still looks like a female Patsy's writing, so that's where I always go
That's
back.
my problem. Yeah, I'm gonna really have to
I really
go back.
don't think the parents did this. I really don't think that
Well,
they.
but if that's the thing, Adam, if somebody deems this as Patsy's writing, how could she not be involved in some
Right.
way? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't, right? Like, again, it's one of those things. It's like Patsy
Right.
Ramsey's notepad. She's the one that found the note. It was at the bottom of the stairs. I don't know.
What does SBTC stand for?
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys that. So, Adam thinks that it's his first one is what was it, Adam?
Saved by the Cross.
And the second one I showed you was what? What was it about, something of the daughter?
Saved.
No, it's a child. Saved by the. What was it?
No, it wasn't saved. It was
No,
something.
I'll find it. So I sent it to you.
Because victory, saved by the cross, is a very Catholic saying, and we know that the Ramseys were Catholic and they're very devout.
So be the child. So be the child. What do you guys think?
Or is it initials that he was trying to play off for some some small foreign fraction? But the victory part followed by that is what I find odd.
Yeah, I mean, this whole note, it's a crock of crap is all it is. It's really just a crock of crap. The SBTC, let's say it's saved by the church or saved by the child or something like that. I mean, this whole thing is a crock of crap. You don't sit there and make a ransom note and then you add a dead child down in the basement there. This whole thing is just bullshit. Whatever it is, whatever flows with this thing it's just a bunch of bullshit. Nobody uses the word a small frickin' faction, whatever the frick it was. Use your brain, says John. Use that Southern common sense, John. That to me sounds like Patsy. I don't know, all the way through. Don't try to grow a brain, John.
Right. And one solved mystery, you're right. There are several pieces of evidence that were never tested, and the Boulder PD won't release them for independent testing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Boulder police hold a lot of responsibility in this case not being solved. I always have.
You say that one more time, Adam?
I've always thought that the Boulder Police Department hold a lot of responsibility for this case not being solved 20 years ago.
Well, it was the prosecutor. I think it was the prosecutor. I think was that what Alexis told me? I can't remember now. Yeah, I think it was what Alexis said. That the prosecutor, or was I listening to that? That the prosecutor is the one that literally told her that they need to lawyer up because they're under suspicion as, suspects.
Well, I think they were like, I mean, Linda, what's her name? Linda has said
Aren't
that she decided it was John on the 26th because of his eyes and his lack of emotion. One solved mystery. Thank you. There was no okay, so that theory came from a PI that's been involved in the Delphi case, and I don't trust a thing that crackpot says, in my opinion.
Oh, who?
Jason Jensen.
Oh yeah. Let's see. A lot of I don't really have nothing much to say about Chris Todd and Jason Jensen, to be honest with you. I think that if anything, like everyone has the right to their opinions, or come off as cuckoo clocks, and stuff like that. I think that they believe their own shit. Is that the best way to say that? That they believe their own shit.
I think they believe it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they're just completely wrong.
I think Chris Todd with the Delphi thing and Ron Logan, again, he put out a book, so no matter what, he's probably going to have to stand behind that bullshit that he put out in the book, unless he ever just writes another book and then puts out that, how it suddenly it was Ron Logan was this part of it, but really the BG is Richard Allen. Which, that's who the BG
clearly.
But
one solved mystery that you're right. That was John's friend Mike Bynum, who was a lawyer that told him to lawyer up, and that they would each need their own lawyer.
Yeah, one solved mystery obviously has been following the JonBenet Ramsey case. You can tell because honestly, like I said, there's a lot that I have no clue about anymore. It's been a long time. So again, I would really like to dive into this case again. Again, it's like a puzzle, and you know that there's an answer out there somewhere, but there's like these weird oddities that just don't make sense, and I'm torn because even I'm sitting there going, Patsy, John, Burke, Patsy, it makes the most sense to me that it is an inside thing, that John did break that window.
But even if you think about if law enforcement at Boulder Police in their minds decided that they thought that the Ramseys were responsible, yet they've never brought charges against them. And I think that's because the evidence isn't there.
Well, yeah, I think like Delphi, it just got muddled all up in a sense, I just said I feel like if Patsy Ramsey wrote this note, then I would have to believe that Patsy Ramsey and whoever else is involved, because I wouldn't want to put Patsy's name to this for any other reason. I can't think of any other reason. And I always actually believed it, to be honest with you, even though they were talking about Patsy, but always what stuck out in my head is I believe that they were like at a party or something like that. And then I always believed that perhaps it was a guy that was at the party, and that, that had basically come into the house afterwards. But it's the whole note thing. But anyways, that was always my kind of gut instinct, was that there was some guy at this party that, was obviously a creep monster or whatever, and took a little liking to JonBenet there. And he was probably like a pedo and whatever. That's what I always thought, even though they kept saying Patsy and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, yeah, I believe that Patsy, the whole thing of Patsy's pad, and it was just, I don't know, it's all been so strange. I really have to deep dive a lot into it again.
Shelley,
go ahead.
Patsy disputed that, and I think even law enforcement, law enforcement says it was April 30th of 1997, that they finally came in for an interview. But the Patsies claim that they spoke to law enforcement throughout those first several days. But no, it wasn't over a year. I think the first official sit-down interview after the first initial week was April 30th. And that's when that original detective that like came out right away and wrote a book and all that stuff. I can't remember his name.
I don't know.
Steven something maybe? I can't remember.
I don't like conspiracy theories, however. I do believe the parents were involved. Again, if I believe that Patsy wrote the note, then I do too. You know what?
It's April 30th. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Anyway, let's watch this court TV, a little bit of this. This is only from a couple of weeks ago, but we'll just listen to it. Okay. Whoops. I just took it off screen. Hey, how's it going? All right. All right. Make it full screen. This is like 9 minutes and 20 seconds.
December 26, 1996. A brisk, clear morning in Boulder, Colorado. John Ramsey was up before dawn.
Well, I was shaving, I guess, in the bathroom.
And we have a back staircase from the bedroom areas. And I always come down that staircase, and I'm usually the first one down. And the note was lying across the run of one of the stair treads. And it was kind of dimly lit because it was very early in the morning. And I started to read it, and it was addressed to John.
A terrifying message scrawled across 3 pages.
It said, "We have your daughter."
I just heard Patsy scream. I could tell by her scream that something horrible was going on. I didn't know what.
I immediately ran back upstairs and pushed open her door, and she was not in her bed.
JonBenet Ramsey was found dead, strangled in the basement of that home. Wasn't kidnapped. This case still never solved. No one's been held responsible since 1996, but some huge developments tonight we want to talk about. Let's bring in our special guest joining us in New York, senior reporter for the U.S. Sun, Luke Kenton is with us. Luke, great to see you. Thanks so much. Read your article. Wow. Let's talk about this development. It's a man named Gary Oliva. Gary Oliva, tell us what you found out about him, what his link is to JonBenet Ramsey.
So Gary Oliva, first and foremost, is not a good guy. The story involving Gary kind of begins on the 27th of December 1996, when he was reported to Boulder police because basically the night before he'd called an old high school friend back in California who he said through tears and it could barely catch his breath, "I've just hurt a little girl." So this was on the night that JonBenet's body was, a few hours after JonBenet's body was found on December 26th. He was crying that he'd hurt a little girl in Boulder and he hung up the phone. Now his friend that was on the other end of the phone didn't know really what to make of that call, was obviously concerned, but couldn't get any information out of him. It wasn't until the next day that he went on the front porch, picked up the newspaper, and saw the news that a 6-year-old girl had been killed in Boulder, Colorado. He immediately calls the Boulder Police Department, reports the call from the day before, and then 3 months pass. He doesn't hear anything, and he calls the tip line again, reports it to Boulder Police, doesn't hear anything again. Fast forward 19 years later, Gary Oliva is in prison for child pornography offences, and confesses in a series of letters to the same person that he called that night, claiming to have killed JonBenet by accident.
This is unbelievable. I mean, this is did police ever talk to this man in California? I mean, he is claiming to have gotten a call before this story is even in the news from this guy.
Yeah, so hours before it, made headlines across the country, he said, "I've hurt a little girl," and he's in Boulder. And bearing in mind at the time, this guy was was associated with the property about 13 houses away. He was getting his mail from a church 13 houses away from the Ramsey family. And the tip, like I said, wasn't followed up upon immediately by Boulder police. At the time, they were zeroing on either Patsy or John Ramsey being responsible for JonBenet's death. It wasn't actually until 4 years later when he was arrested on the campus of the University of Colorado in Boulder with pictures of JonBenet in his bag, a poem that he'd written to JonBenet called Ode to JonBenet. And he was also found with a stun gun. And that was kind of a crucial development for investigators because over the course of their investigation, after the first few months, they kind of theorized that perhaps that she was subdued with the stun gun prior to her death. So that's when police started looking at Gary, which was 4 years later.
Yet nothing seemed to come of it all. Was he, and my understanding, there's a photo of him or images of him at a vigil for JonBenet as well?
Yeah, that's right. So this vigil took place on the year anniversary of her death. So that was on Christmas night. I believe that was held a short distance away from the Ramseys' home. And that picture that we published was actually taken by private investigators hired by John Ramsey, who were investigating Gary at that time, believing him to be a very credible suspect and certainly somebody that's capable of committing such a horrific act. The Boulder police wouldn't look at Gary for another 3 years after that.
Unbelievable. One final question. How specific were the details in these letters, these alleged confession letters?
Yeah, so the confession letters were written in and around 2019. There's roughly a dozen of them. One of them I can read you here. I've got it written down below me here. It says, "I never loved anyone like I did JonBenet, yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half, and I watched her die. It was an accident, please believe me." So he's claiming that he killed JonBenet by accident. Whether or not you can take that at face value, who knows? That's for Boulder police to investigate. They did acknowledge the confession letters when they were first published in 2019, but seemed to kind of brush them under the carpet. They said, we've heard this guy confess before, and we've looked into it. There's no further updates in this case. But I think, certainly he's a character that John Ramsey was particularly interested in. I think he's certainly somebody that's worth having a second look at.
Absolutely. Luke Kenton, U.S. Sun. Great job. Thanks so much, Luke. Appreciate it.
Boom, 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 boom. Okay. First of all, one thing that I wanted to say as I was listening to that was, as a parent, don't you think? Sorry, let me bring us back up over here. As a parent, don't you think that you would be scouring every part of your house the minute you realize that your daughter's not there? Like, you don't think you'd be scouring every inch of your house? Of course you would. Any parent would be going to every single room, scouring their place. Like, that would be a normal thing to do. So it seems strange to me. I don't know. But anyways, as for this person, this Gary Oliva person, yeah, I'm just not buying what they're trying to sell on this one. No. And what do you mean accident? An accident. So who here believes that JonBenet died by the Garrett, or when they peeled back her head, her scalp in the autopsy, and she had like an 8-inch gash,
It
which
was a
I
massive
believe that
blow.
they did.
But I mean, she died by strangulation.
Is that what they ruled it as? Strangulation?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense, though, does it?
With the Garrett, yeah.
No. If she had a big bounce on her head, you would think that she was whacked first. Like if somebody,
Well, but I don't think it killed. I think it
it
was
might
the
not have
strangulation.
killed her.
Yeah, but it was the strangulation. I think that actually killed her.
I mean, they said that she had internal bleeding, so it's not
Right.
like you've seen like all this blood.
Yeah.
But to me, to me, it would be like a smack on the head, but then like maybe the final blow was the Garrett, But don't you think though that, like I said, anyone that's missing their kid, they would have scoured their house, every nook and cranny. Like,
I don't think you can judge what someone does in a traumatic situation like that. And plus, they thought she'd been kidnapped. I mean, they only even checked. They ran up and checked on Burke, and they checked her room, but they didn't even go back in her room.
The thing is that common sense as a parent, you would literally scour your house. I think that's common sense.
They say they called 911 right away. And so, I mean, and then, I think it took like 8 minutes for the officer to arrive.
Yeah, but correct. But still, as they're doing that, as a parent, you would be scouring your house.
I think you'd be running around in panic, but I don't know if you'd be like, I don't know if I would think
absolutely.
I mean, but like I said, I'm not going to judge what someone does in a situation like that, but I will judge the fact that the police didn't find her because they're not in an emotional state.
Well,
they should, they're trained for these things. So
yeah, but it was only her. It was only her.
Well, she's not the original officer. There was the original officer that came. Can't remember what his name was, and then she was the only one there for several hours.
No, and first of all, for me personally, I will absolutely judge what a person does. Like, meaning that will be part, kind of like what she was doing, Linda Arndt. Like, that's going to, like, you're going to watch that's just a given, especially if you're a police officer. You're going to be watching their interactions, what they're doing, and stuff like that. But the thing is, again, you have 57 people in here that say that they believe Patsy Ramsey wrote that letter. Mm-hmm. What out of, besides within the family, what other purpose then could Patsy Ramsey would have written this letter? It's not like she would have wrote this for somebody else. This would only,
in my opinion, if Patsy Ramsey wrote the note, the only logical reason would have been to protect Burke.
Correct.
But then again, like I said, I still don't think any of their actions once they call 911 would match with trying to control the situation like you would want to, if you're trying to protect your one remaining child, and you're also going through the trauma of your daughter being killed. Yeah. I just don't see them letting Burke out of their sight if they think he could tell someone anything.
See, I don't put as much probably credence on that as you do, because to me, maybe they don't want him in the house. And if Burke knows he did something, in a sense, if he did, I mean, like I said, I don't think he's going to be sitting there going over to somebody's house and telling them. I don't know.
He was 10 years old. You can't, how you would have no way to know how the kid's going to react in that situation, especially being a little weird.
Okay, then for you, then it would have to leave Patsy or John, if you believe that Patsy.
But I don't think they did. I don't,
Right.
Like I said,
so that means
I think if she wrote this, the only way that she did that is to protect Burke.
So do you believe that Patsy wrote this letter?
I see two different scenarios in my head that I equally think are completely both plausible. If Patsy wrote this, I think it's because she's protecting the child she has left. If she didn't write this, if she didn't write this, I think it was still written by a female. But I don't know who it is then.
Well, for me, the thing that entered my head was jealousy. Jealousy of her own daughter. And I think for me, if anything, it could be very much could be Patsy. But again, it would be nice if there was ever freaking an answer. But I'd have to like deep dive back into this case and fully look at everything properly again. But the thing is that the most truthful stuff will always be near the beginning of the
Which
case.
is why, like, I know, like you and I think you were looking back at old interviews too, like from close to the beginning. Well, like I said, and I'm not claiming I have any that I know, and like, so I mean, if for people that think that Patsies are 100% responsible, you could be 100% right. For the people that think it was an intruder, you could be 100% right, because every time I go down one path, I find something that blocks my way, and then when I go down the other path, I find something that blocks my way. That's why it's so confusing, I think.
Right, because I think that they went to Atlanta. They booked the police and that were taking over the home, and they booked a trip to Atlanta where
they were supposed to fly out that morning anyway. They didn't clearly go that day, but
there's a lot of weird things to it all. But again, it's a lot of weird things that I'll have to personally go back to and look at, in a sense. But I think that there's one of those things too, is like I was saying to Alex earlier today, like with my ex-husband, for instance, I didn't realize. So I remember this one day, my ex-husband was kind of being sooky. We were outside drinking with friends, and I was always pissed because I'm always the one that had to stay in the house with our son while he was always out, out front with whatever, because, for me to leave Matthew in the house, even though we live in a townhouse, like even if I'm sitting in front of the yard, I don't just leave my son, unless he was sleeping, then you don't think nothing about it because you're just right in front of the house. But I just remember him saying to me, like, we were talking about something, and he said to me that he was jealous of our son, the attention that I gave to him. And I was like, wait, what? Like, who the fuck says that? What do you mean you're jealous of how much time I give to our son? Are you a freaking adult? You're a
I think you see
child.
that more with men. I think you see that more with men.
Definitely.
Being jealous because they don't get the affection or attention they probably got from their wife before they had children. Because then the attention, but that's because men are also big babies.
Don't gotta tell me twice.
Well, why are you paying attention to the baby? I'm a 40-year-old grown baby.
But I don't put it out of the cards that Patsy lost her shit or something on her daughter and accidentally did something. And, but I don't know. Shit. I don't know. Because again, it's hard, but if I deem that she wrote the note, then I have to deem that her, John, or Burke had something to do with it. And if I had to pick my choice, it would be more between Burke and Patsy than John.
Right. I would like to know the fibers that they recovered from her, that because I know they said they don't match anything in the house. So I'm like, well, where do those fibers come from?
What about the pubic hair? That was
right, and it didn't that, and then that. So I mean, even if you want to say DNA came from like a factory worker that made the underwear, where's the pubic hair come from? Because Burke didn't have any yet, I would assume, and it didn't match anyone in the family, and it didn't match the older, because I think John has an older son too. It didn't match him either.
Right. Again, you know what? I'm too fresh to seeing this information again. I'm just kind of going off of my initial take about it when it was back in 1996 and those couple years, and then the case just kind of went nowhere. Right. And everything.
I don't know the answer to this question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Did the tape come from a roll of tape in the house? Because I don't remember hearing that now. I mean, I'm sure I did, but it's been a long time. Because remember, she had tape on her mouth.
Right,
Did
and
the
then
roll
they
of tape come from the house?
right. I don't remember either, and it's funny because I just heard about that today, and I believe what was said about the tape, and I think this might be on Ken Main's, was that the tape was placed after, and there was no pressure points of the tape, like
Right.
not like as if it hadn't been on there long enough to make
This,
impressions.
right.
I remember.
And I know John removed the tape when he found her, which I think is
Oh,
a natural thing that you would do if you found your daughter.
yeah.
But
I mean, Unsolved Mystery
One Solved
should know
Mystery
the
says
answer
the
to that.
source of the tape has never been discovered. See, that I didn't think it had. So that was one of the things that I found odd, and I don't think that
Yeah.
the what was she tied with? Because I don't remember that being something from the house either. I know the paintbrush
It was
was, but
twine, wasn't it? Wasn't it like twine? Rope twine? I need a spreadsheet. Yeah. Where's Tom? Tom
yeah,
Webster. Maybe
I'll
he's
have him
probably
work
done a
on it tonight.
spreadsheet. I wonder if he did one on JonBenet. I don't know. Where's Tom Right exactly? But fibers for someone from Patsy was wearing. But fibers from something Patsy was wearing was on the duct tape that was over her mouth. The tape was manufactured on the East Coast just weeks before the crime. Huh. See, that's all shit that I need to, I need to like dive into Unsolved Mystery. Again, this is something that obviously you've been following and are very much aware of the case and all the different probably developments throughout the years.
Next
Whereas
time
I
we
need,
next time we do a stream, One Solved Mystery should join us.
yeah. Would you ever consider doing that, Unsolved Mystery? Joining us
What
on a live up here? It's
One
always
Solved
nice
Mystery
to
they
hear.
call it a parachute cord, and it's also never been sourced. I didn't think it had. Which so those are two things where I find more inconsistencies with if it's John and Patsy, what did they do with the tape, and where did they get the material that she was tied up with? Like,
What
where
about
is
that
it?
whole friggin'
Tape,
knot thing
a
too?
tape has to come off of a roll.
Absolutely. Yeah. What
And
about
again,
what about
it could easily be the Patsy. It could easily be the Ramseys. I probably no other case am I this in the middle about.
my gut says that it was an inside the house thing. That's my gut feeling. Um and usually if I stray from it, I'm typically wrong too much. If I stray. There are 9 missing pages
Mm-hmm.
from the middle
Believe
of the
that.
notepad which the ransom note came from. Was that you think those 9 missing pages are when somebody rips it up and they start writing again?
It was from the middle.
Yeah.
Like someone had opened it up in the middle and then tore 9 pages out and then put it back to the.
Yeah, but you think when like kind of like when I open up a notepad, I don't honestly go to the first page. I just open it up and I start writing. Like
Well, I
I
think they're
wonder if
saying someone could have taken those before that day to
okay.
write this.
Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. Well, that's where all those little twists and turns come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of it just
Absolutely.
being that the note was written that day, all of a sudden these 9 pages are missing, and so then they would have known like who was in the house. The Ramseys would have known who was in the house. Do you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, and Lucia. Well, I don't have the energy for the 911 call tonight. Well, I'll have to do that. We could do a whole live about the 911 call. But
When's
yeah,
your other
there were people that think they heard Burke in the background. Some people say no. Some people say yes. Some people think they heard "What did you do?" Other people
yeah.
say no. The Ramsey said Burke was still in bed then, but
This
that 911 call, I hear something in the background, but
hmm I'm gonna say like I heard that 911 call, but I'd have to literally go bring it into the program and listen to it properly before I make any sort of decision myself on that.
yeah.
Again, this is just kind of like 2 days old, really, to me to come back to the JonBenet case. It's always sat in my head, and again, this case in itself is the one case only that has always bugged me. that there's no answers for this poor little girl as of
right. Oh, well, I have lots of cases that bother me like that, but but this one, this one is probably the one I'm most, just like I said, caught in the middle of, as far as like, thinking which way I think that that it happened. Because I mean, like, even just like my gut when I watched the parents, like I said, my gut like always kind of told me that like that the parents might have written, that Patsy might have written this note, but my gut then when I watch them tells me they're being truthful and honest. So
right, that's what's hard, is that's the same thing too, is that I feel like when I'm watching them talk, or at least Patsy, I feel like, and then Linda Arndt said that she heard the most horrific, or what did she call it? Something scream of anguish, which was out of Patsy Ramsey.
Out of Patsy when they came up, because John screamed, and then Patsy was in the living room with her friends, and she was like, "What happened? What happened?" And I heard that the anguish of her scream, but I don't know.
One self says, and this is what I kind of vaguely remember too, that there were impressions on one of the pages indicating a practice note had been written, but there was also a page left that simply started with Mr. and Mrs. I, as if the downstroke of the letter R for Ramsey. And I was like, yeah, hold on. No. Okay, you know what? Forever who's in here right now, just honestly, just put into chat who you think probably did it. I'm just curious, for the people that are in chat, who do you think probably did it? I'm just gonna go with.
And even Sonny, what do you think as far as like with CrimeCon this year, John Ramsey, he had a book come out, and so he was, and he wants this DNA testing done. So if any of the Ramseys were involved, I mean, why would John want to take that chance? If DNA technology has advanced to the point where it could prove that they're liars. Right. So I'm like, what would be his goal in that, in wanting and advocating for this DNA technology to be used?
Right. Again, something that doesn't make sense. To the Ramseys,
right. For years and years, that was my go. That was where I thought, that's where my mind went for years and years, until I really knew more about the case, and now I'm 50-50. So, sorry, Sonny.
No, go ahead.
I'm done.
Oh. Fibro says, but Adam, John told Dr. Phil that this would be his final interview unless the person is caught. The father shouldn't nor wouldn't say that if his daughter's killer still needs to be found.
Right. And that might have been a way he was feeling, because it wasn't his last interview.
I know that they said that the Ramseys weren't being very helpful, like from the get-go. And yet, if you listen to them, they say that they were. All I know is that for me, if I know I'm not guilty of anything, I ain't holding anything back. I will speak. I don't care if the lawyer says don't say this. You know what? Shut it. I'll say whatever I want. Because for me, if I know that I'm innocent, I don't give a shit about anything else. I want to know who killed my child, and I want answers, and I won't shut up. That's just me. Right. And the whole thing.
But then again, they never have.
But the what?
But then again, they never have shut up about it. I mean, they could have just kind of said, "Oh, we want justice," and then gone off into the. Once they were cleared by the grand jury, or not cleared, but charges were not brought, they could have just kind of gone on with their lives. But I mean, they've stayed front and center. And I know some people accuse them of doing that for profit. But I mean, at this point, John's still out there. You know, Patsy, of course, has passed away, but I don't know. I just don't know if you would be shouting from the rooftop still this many years later if you had guilt. Some people probably interpret that different.
I was going to say, and again, right? It's kind of like if they know that they don't have shit to, you know, go against them because the case is, you know, they can't find, you know, kind of like the BG, you know, like reminds me of that. It's kind of like he probably thought he was going to get away with it because he thought that they were not even on his you know, radar whatsoever.
Right.
And it's like, oh, busted. I don't know. It's one of those things, Adam. There's people do the damnedest things, and there's never anything that should be off the table in a sense, in some ways.
Of course not.
Besides those cuckoo clocks out there that really push for really warped ass shit. But you know, we're not here to do that. We're trying to stay within the facts.
Oh, of course. I mean, I was just reading the detailed events of, I can't remember his name, the guy that shot his wife or girlfriend, and then she lived, but then he shot his stepdaughter and then murdered his 3 sons because she was going to leave him. Yeah. I can't remember his name. It was like Ohio, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you listen to those details about how he chased them down one by one and brutally. You're talking about the one just recently. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. What was his name?
I can't think of it. So people are clearly capable of anything. If you're capable of doing what that man did.
Yeah, the doorman guy. That's right. The doorman guy or doorman guy. Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. I mean, when I was in Calgary, like I said, and we were at my father-in-law was at this home of Betty and Don's, and he was, I don't know, I think he was like house sitting or something. And then he asked us to come over. And the reason why he asked us to come over is because next door there was literally just an homicide taking the kids' lives, right? Like literally in the house beside you. And so he kind of felt queasy about being there. So he asked us all to come over. And again, right, the mom comes home to find that both of her children not alive, and the ex, all because she left him. You know, people do the damnedest things over the damnedest things. You know, I don't know. But that's why I get torn with this, because again, if I think that Patsy wrote this letter, and there's so many details within this letter of, you know, and then we'll do that, like I said, in a part 2 with Alexa.
Right. And like I said, you can find experts that say Patsy wrote this, and you can find experts that say absolutely she did not write this. So it's such a subjective matter in a way. Like when you're looking at, you know, like, and that's why I wish Alexa were here to talk about the handwriting, because, you know, even though there's so many different things, there's so much evidence behind handwriting analysis and all of these things, it's still quite subjective in how people interpret it.
Mm-hmm. So, Alexa, correct me if I'm wrong here. Ransom note and Patsy Ramsey's writing, correct? On these ones that you sent me, I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, I think that's the same chart that I sent you, just in a different way.
Well, you sent me this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you sent me this. Yeah. Alexa sent me this.
That's right.
Let me just quickly see what it said. Let me just go back up, because she was sending me this. Okay, looking briefly at some of the ransom note in Patsy's handwriting. Okay, so on the left-hand side is the ransom note, and on the upper side is Patsy Ramsey's writing, printing, whatever you want to call it. So,
Well, when she's next time when she's here, she can explain what her arrows and everything mean.
I don't know. This is from the internet. This isn't from her.
Okay.
She
Oh,
sent
she
me
didn't
it.
draw those. Okay.
Yeah, but it's kind of like even when I'm looking here. Okay, again, first thing you notice for me is the A's. Okay, Patsy Ramsey's letter, and she was asked to do them 5 times. The A's just stand out like a sore thumb. But again, even if this one is written, like more eloquently in a sense, it still doesn't stop me personally from seeing things that stick out. And let's see here. I know I'm okay. The P, for instance, just the way whereas possession. See how the P just comes like it's literally just a P straight down line.
Right.
Even as I'm looking at the S's, how they all kind of start off and come down in that same type of manner, even though I know that possession here is spelt wrong versus in here. But
Well,
again,
yeah.
go ahead.
I would say I found there's a few words in the ransom note that are misspelled, which I find interesting as well. Business is one of the words because clearly in some parts of this letter, the person writing it exhibits signs of intelligence and I would say probably being more of upper class. But then there's I feel like some of the spelling errors might be even intentional. Granted, business is a word I misspell accidentally quite a bit. Like I'll switch the I and the S sometimes. I don't know what I was going to say after that. No, sorry. But no, we do trust Alexa's view on these things. That's why I was looking forward to her being here tonight. But I get she's got a lot going on. So next time.
Yeah. Again, I think that anyone, like I said, that has a little bit of common sense can kind of go through this whole letter themselves and they can compare it to other people's that they have out there. And for me, this wasn't rocket science. To me, this just stood out like a sore thumb that even in the prettiest of format, like the 2, for instance, in 20, okay, again, it just has that same similar, but I think it's the whole of everything. It's just really the whole, like the eyes always typically, the dots on the eyes go to the right-hand side. Again, the S's,
but I wonder what percentage of the population's eyes go to the right side.
I'm probably a lot,
presumably 50%.
But again, how many people? It really boils down to the A. That's the most significant thing to me. Is that there was something in here where did she have it? I'm trying to remember that there was. Okay. There was a letter in here, and I'd have to probably find it again. But it was like an A, but it was a D in here, and it had this same weird crooked thing about it. Where did I see that? It was kind of like, you see how this side. No, there was a letter in here, kind of like how this D goes weird. Oh, this one right here.
The L's are very different. The L's are the ones that I've always thought, like when I would compare these two, the L's are so different.
Oh, and I don't actually find them that different, to be honest with you. Maybe
you don't. I mean, the length of them and the curvature.
No, I don't.
Really?
I don't.
I look at Patsy's like lowercase L's. I'm in the lowercase L's, not the capital.
The lowercase, yeah, I'm same. I don't find them hugely different.
Really? Because when I look at carefully and Will, I think her L's are way different.
Yeah. What I'm seeing here though is a differently crafted letter than somebody writing faster.
And absolutely that could absolutely be.
And that's all I'm seeing. Okay, here, look at the 1997. I mean, come on. That's pretty much a virtual copy of each other.
But then the comma next to it is completely different.
Okay, right.
But the comma next to it is completely different. Which could be
again,
intentional.
as a whole, like, okay, let's see, let's just see here. Now, okay, I went back
Like
to
I said,
this
she's long been accused of like altering her handwriting after the fact.
right. Well, I mean, honestly, again, I think we all know how we do our own handwriting. This right here is something when I am taking my time and I'm trying to do it nicely, that's exactly what it's going to look like.
Right.
And when I'm not, it's going to look more like this slop over here. Because that's just the way I do things, right? If I'm in a rush and I don't give a shit, I'm just writing it, right? And in her case, let's say that she did write it. Let's just say she did. She's gonna try to make it look as least as what she feels
Right.
that her writing or printing would look like. But then there's always going to be those dang ass giveaways that no matter what, no matter how much you try to deceive, you're still gonna find within the whole letter. And like I said, for me, no freaking ass guy writes a freaking ransom note this long. That's like that's just weird.
Right.
That a ransom note is even that long, 2.5 pages. Anyone that's probably never written a ransom note,
Sorry.
that's truly not a criminal that hasn't done that, versus somebody that hasn't done it before, probably has no clue how long a ransom note really is.
Right.
That the ridiculous length of this ransom note with the ending shit. Like I said, it starts off as if you look at a stray dog, you will die. If you look at this, I feel like that part's from a movie somewhere. If you look at this, she dies. I feel like I heard that in a movie somewhere. You know, like I'm pretty sure there's a movie that they have that same type of thing.
Right. I'll be right back.
Like if you do this, she dies. Yeah, but I don't know. Let's see. The spelling intentionally dumbed down yet uses words like attaché. Right. Attaché. That word in itself sticks out like a sore thumb because any typical blue collar person doesn't use the word attaché. Like it's not a word that us under wealthier people would use. That would be more to me of a privileged type of person would use that word. That's just my personal take on that because attaché, we wouldn't. It's not a word that we would typically say. You know. Do, 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 do. I was gonna say now. What I thought was strange here was that here she wrote 118,000 from your account, but here it's like, okay, from your. See, like the freaking R. Like, if you look at the O and the U, it's like they're beside each other, and then the R comes off longer. Stuff like that. I don't know. As a whole, I think that she did this. Like, even if you look at adequate, look at the Q here, and you kind of look at that there. It's very similar. That little gap there. Then there's that little gap there as well. Not so much on the word size like happened here, but again, it's not going to be 100%. Absolutely, but as a whole, 10 a.m. Just looking at the different, see, and her W's look the same there. But again, for me, the A gives it away as a female, and the rest of it,
Yeah.
just when you look at the whole thing, to me is just, to me,
Yeah, I feel like a female wrote it. But like I said, I do feel like a male dictated parts of it.
Okay. Yeah, so that's strange that, like, meaning, again, I don't know. I don't know. I think it was, let me just take a quick look at something. Where's that thing that I had? Are you guys getting used to the X for Twitter over the Bluebird, Tweeterbird? What do you think of it, Adam?
I
whole-
haven't really paid attention to it too much.
Yeah. I'm getting used to it, but it's still weird.
Yeah, I liked the bird, but that was just me.
Yeah. Okay. So on December 29th is when they flew home. to Atlanta. You wouldn't ever catch me leaving. Tell you that freaking much. I don't know. What do you think about that? I still think that's weird.
Well, I think they had to turn the house. I think that they,
Yeah, but still.
the house was being used, by the
Yeah,
police.
but still. And I know, and I'm not trying to use this against you, but it is harder for me when somebody is not a parent themselves, because I was thinking always the same as you, Adam, that, well, I can kind of surmise what it feels like because, I know about my nieces and how I feel.
Well, I'm not putting myself in their place at all. I mean,
No,
I can imagine.
But I think with though, when you actually physically do have a child, that
Right.
again, like, you can't ever understand it unless you're in it, ever.
But you remember, they went to Atlanta because that's where they buried her. She's buried in Georgia.
Yeah, but that's not what they said. Like, they didn't say, well, we went there.
They went to Atlanta. They went to Atlanta because they were burying their daughter.
That's not what he said, though. When I listened to his interview, like, when he was asked about that, all he said was, like, his answer that John said, like, in his own interview, was that, well, basically the police took the house over, so that's, and what he said was, he didn't say anything about the burial. He just said Atlanta because that's where we have a home. That's where our family is. That's what he said.
I'm not saying that they took JonBenet with them at that point to bury her, but that is where she's buried. And my understanding was that they went to Atlanta because that's where their family is. And when they went to Atlanta, they planned her arrangements.
Correct, but it's not like he mentioned any of that when he was speaking. Right. Like, all he did, like, when he, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like he mentioned anything about the burial. He just talked about, because that's where his family was at. Nothing about, oh, well, because that's where, we're going to lay JonBenet Ramsey to, like, our daughter there to rest.
Right. Well, I think it was the totality of the situation that, the house was being used by the police. Their home was in Atlanta. They knew they wanted to bury her there. They went there. I never thought that was weird. And maybe I'm wrong.
She was buried in Marietta, Georgia. Is Georgia? Yeah. Is that in Atlanta?
It's a suburb. Marietta is a suburb of Atlanta.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but if people don't know, I'm Canadian. So
it was in one Solved Mysteries, right? But it was 131.97 because it was 12/26/96. That. Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. They never went back to that Boulder home again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as if they have nothing to do with it, like each to their own again on that, right? Some people think of it like a memory that they don't want to lose, and other people deem it as a place that they would never want to go to again.
Right. Well, see, it's just even like you and I talking like about this. It's kind of indicative of what this case is like because, where I'm like, oh, it's totally natural that they went to Georgia, on that trip, and and then other people feel like, no, that's weird. So that's exactly everything that embodies everything in this case.
Well, I was gonna say, I just really need to deep dive into it and keep going back to it and writing down a bunch of notes this time, just to get me back to my settings of this case from, like I said, if someone would have talked to me about this case like 25 years ago, 27 years ago, I would have obviously been very much well aware of everything that was going on, that was out there. But 27 years later, and I really haven't, I've kept the case in my mind. I really haven't kept up with all the different updates going on. I've seen the odd things with Patsy and John over the years. But just, over the years, you see, maybe they're reliving the 16th anniversary, or maybe Burke is on Dr. Phil looking like an idiot, laughing. I think it was, and stuff. That was weird too. Like, seriously, that kid's weird. I'm sorry, Burke, but you seem very weird. Um, like, you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of somebody that's a certain age, but yet he acts a certain age. Like his real age doesn't suit how he comes across. He comes across like younger.
Yeah. You know what, Sonny? Her funeral was on December 31st, 1996. They flew to Atlanta on December 29th. So
29.
yeah, they flew to bury their daughter.
Okay, but all I'm saying is that he like made no remark about that in the one interview I was watching. So not to say it's not the case, but he never mentioned that when he was talking about it, which I then would think would be odd.
Yeah, I'm surprised they got her back that quick. To be honest, like Diana said, I mean, because that was the 26th is when she was found, and I mean that's literally 5 days later. And to transport the body to Atlanta.
Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna call it a night with this case. It's been 2 hours. Again, we'll do it again, and when Alexa comes back as well, we'll do a deeper dive into the handwriting and to Alexa's thoughts about, the emotions of the certain letters on certain things. To see what she has got from this, because we've never, again, talked about this case on here with Alexa. We've talked about it, but we've never done any live on it or any handwriting samples and stuff like that. So, we'll do part 2 when she gets back on the JonBenet. Up until then, again, Rex Heuermann is in court tomorrow. And we'll get back. And I want to, again, deep dive and write down. I want to go back to the beginning of this case and get my memory. Yeah, I just happened to see the letter. And again, I went to it and I was like, instantly, female. A female. The only people that make A's like that, almost
I agree.
90, I would say 95%, if not higher, is females. Females do that type of A. Males don't sit there and go, oh, let me put some swirly, curly Q. Some good males do. Don't get me wrong. Some males do. But the majority of women is a woman that does that.
Right.
And it definitely does have female characteristics.
Yeah. And the ransom note is not a bad place to start when you kind of like spring off looking at this case again. Because, it is such a confounding, question.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, for me personally, it is the one and only case that always is. Like, there's no other case besides Nicole Brown's case with Butthead getting away with killing her, O.J. Simpson. Other than that, the JonBenet Ramsey case has always been that case that's bugged me. It's one of those cases I would like to see answers come, for justice for JonBenet. But yet, by the same token, I know that JonBenet is up in heaven. Like what happens on earth and being up in heaven are two different things. But it's one of those things is that you just want justice. He already pled guilty. Great live investment. Anyways, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, GP. Thank you, guys. Thank you, One Self Mystery again, and thank you, Camaro. A couple names that I haven't seen in here before. But anyways, we will continue to cover the JonBenet Ramsey case. Again, it is one that's close to my heart. And was it one that was? I know that there's a few for you, Adam. Like, I know that there's the McCann case. And Madeline, and I remember that case as well. It was another case that always bugged me as well about that poor little girl that got taken out of that resort she was staying at. And
sadly, I think Madeline's case is probably at this point probably easier to solve than JonBenet's, but right. But there are a couple of cases. Like, I don't think Natalie Holloway will ever get I don't think they'll ever recover her. But like that's a case I've always would, I would like to see Beth Holloway get answers for really what happened to Natalie, even though I think a lot of us probably assume we know.
Yeah.
Jennifer Kessie's another case that I feel like the family deserves answers. Well, everyone deserves answers, of course, but those are just a couple come off the top of my head.
I personally don't feel like Maddie's parents are guilty. I think that they're guilty.
I never have. Yeah.
I feel like they're guilty of I would never, ever leave my child while I'm there. I don't care if that was 50 yards, 100 yards away. I would never. The farthest I ever left my son was I was literally in our carport while he was upstairs in his bed sleeping.
Right.
But like I said,
I think I told you when I went there, my feelings changed on that a little bit. I never thought they were guilty of anything.
You did say.
But I
think that they're guilty of.
When I went to the condo and I walked it and I really stood there, I mean, it literally is like being in your backyard, but like it's so close. But I understand that some people would never do that.
I just couldn't bring myself. But then again, Adam, and like some people know on this channel, it's only because of what happened to me and my sisters and brother when we were younger that scared the crap out of me of the fact of we could be dead to this day because of our own stupidity of that guy. And so my overprotecting of my son, I had to protect him from any sort of harm. And so I don't want to say I'm the worst out there, but I was definitely a little bit more smothering because of that.
I wouldn't leave my niece. I wouldn't leave my niece inside and go in the backyard like that to sit for, even if I were to go, I wouldn't walk inside to smoke a cigarette and leave my niece inside.
Well, see, I'd go that far because like I'm right there at my home still. Like I'm literally right there. Like my patio is right there. Like there's nobody coming in or out. Do you know what I mean? But like, meaning I have no problem if my son was sleeping upstairs or in the playpen, whatever, and he's sleeping. But I would always go make sure to check on him. But I didn't go more than like 5 feet, 10 feet away from my house. I couldn't ever do that. I couldn't feel comfortable with doing that. And even when he was sleeping, I kept getting up to go upstairs just to make sure he was still sleeping,
Right.
I just, like I said, I couldn't do anything more than that because I would feel like I was being a bad mom myself. Like, I don't want to say that those are boundaries for everybody. For me, like I said,
a different style of parenting.
I can understand that if somebody's
I also
around
look at the
their
fact that like I ran around. My parents never knew where I was as a kid. Like we went out to play outside and we came home when it got dark. You don't do that these days.
No,
but,
I mean, and then the stuff I did, I would never let my son do.
No.
Like I wouldn't just be like 10 years old, 8 years old. We'd go same thing as you. We'd be in condos, like, townhomes.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have that main central park that you played at with the swing set and all that was in the middle of the complex, and we would go play and stuff like that. Would I let my own son do that? Absolutely not. Or without mommy there. Never.
I ran through cornfields. I was running through cornfields.
Cornfields, I know. Same. I honestly,
One solved mystery. Do you have a channel? If you do, if you want, Fibro can drop your link if you would like. And if you do have a channel, do you cover JonBenet? Because, like I said, you can come on and talk with us sometime.
Well, yeah. If you ever want to, you can just email hatecrimingshame@gmail.com, but no pressure. That's a birthday one, whatever. Anyway, the atcrimingshame@gmail.com or truecrimeaspen@gmail.com. That's our email addresses if you do. If not, that's totally fine. Oh, exclusively? That's the only one that you cover over there. So,
oh, really? I'll
Um,
have to go check out some of your videos.
on there. So yeah. For us, it's just about trying to put out the facts out there, having the different discussions about it without, the cracker jacks from the woodwork coming out. Try to
Right.
stay within the gist, the parameters of the case, the facts that have been put out there, and not trying to sensationalize bullshit, to be honest with you.
Right.
But yet there's clearly different directions that this case has gone in.
Yeah.
But then
I'd
there's
kind of
also
forgotten. I'd kind of forgotten how frustrating the case is until, like I said, because, it'd been years since I looked into it. And then, when we decided to do this live, I, of course, started looking into it again yesterday. And I was like, and everything, my memory got jogged pretty quickly, but I was like, I kind of forgot all of the different avenues and rabbit holes you can go down.
And I can see with this one too, where people kind of like Delphi, they get their panties in a knot because they think that they're so right. Like I can see a lot of arguing going on with this case as well. Just because there's people that are adamant that the Ramseys didn't do it, that there's people that are adamant that they did. And it's one of those ones that, like I said, there's a lot of twists and turns in it because you got all this stuff in front of you and yet you don't know anything.
And in 27 years, you're going to, we now have experts that, if you feel like the family is responsible, there are people that you can use to claim, that you're right. And if you think that it was not the family, there are experts that, you can use to claim that you're right.
Yeah. And yes, discussions is always the way to figure it out, and it's truly about channels or people helping people. We're not, like I said, this channel is never here to be selfish and go, oh, like, I need this information, it's our content, and da 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 da. This channel always allows other creators to use whatever they want from the lives, if they want to snippet a portion of it and use it and say it, because again, it's really just about bringing our cases to awareness,
Right.
talking about it, and and really, sometimes somebody says something, like Adam said a couple things tonight that I'll go back in and look at, because like, for instance, about the whole JonBenet, being buried thing and stuff like that, because it would make sense that they flew out to Atlanta, whereas I only heard John say about his family. I never heard him say anything about Burr, so that didn't even enter my mind, to be honest with you. But again, I haven't read about this case in a long time. This was just kind of talking about the note mostly today, about who wrote it, whether it was female or male, and what people thought, because to me, it was like a dead giveaway, the A for sure. Doesn't mean 100%, but it's close to me, just because it's not a male thing to do. It's nothing that I've seen the odd male do something like that, but usually, I'm sorry, Adam, no offense, but it's usually one that has more feminine features.
I've never written an A like that in my life. So
yeah,
maybe in elementary school when you're learning.
It's not common, right? It's just not common. Just right, like we were saying about jealousy, with children. Usually, it's more the males that are prone to be jealous because you're not giving them enough time and attention, and stuff like that. Mothers don't ever think like that whatsoever,
right.
And
then like I said, and then maybe next time, like maybe we'll play the 911 tape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Again, I guess I'm not sure, Adam, because like I said, tomorrow is Rex Huerman stuff. I'm not sure if you're up to doing a live tomorrow. I'm not really sure what's all coming out. Anyways, we'll see. Next live will be when it will be. It will be when it will be. But anyways, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. And you guys have a great night. And thank you for, again, all your thoughts on the side there. And thank you to One Solved Mystery for, again, your knowledge. And to Camaro that I seen was in there. And
everyone's opinions.
They matter as long as you're not a cuckoo clock. As long as you're not one of those people that's way the hell out there and a whole writing off. One thing that I cannot stand is when, like I said, like Koberger case, right? Koberger case stuff happens. And then there's people that do it every day. And they will think of any stupid shit to think of just to keep their life going every single darn day. And then they start getting into the whole wacko weirdness. Like that Ryan Upchurch guy is being sued or whatever for the Kylie Rodney, because from the Kylie Rodney case, because at first he started off like he's that country singer, which I'd never personally heard of as well. But he started off like, doing
I thought he was entertaining at first.
And then he went into the whole wacko side and started accusing like all these people. And
didn't he go after Icamel and
like honestly, again, we just like to keep it kind of real, honest and transparent, and then discuss it.
I know I'm ready to go, but did you know that for anyone that didn't know, for a few hours on Sunday, Papa Roger reactivated the account on Facebook, and then
I heard
took
that
it back down again.
I know. I mean, that's got to be at least a conversation for at least a month during the Koberger case. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Papa Rogers. Oh, me. Oh, my. He activated the account. Yeah. Anyways, whatever. Okay. Anyways, you guys take care. Have a great night. See you when we see ya. This is Sunny Justice and Aspen Connor from It's a Crime and Shame, wishing you all a good night.